Welcome to episode 153 of the Left Behind Game Club. This week we played Doki Doki Literature Club. Let's get right into it.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I am your not host, Jacob McCourt, and I have three friends with me here today. Your first friend, you know her, you love her. Her name is Katie Lesperance.
Oh, hi. I'm ready to talk about a game that unexpectedly scared the crap out of me. Yay!
Here with her thoughts about scary, spooky things is Flora Marigold. Welcome to the show, Flora.
Yes, I would say thank you for having me, but apparently I'm supposed to be the host here. I just lost my voice and I felt self-conscious. So anyway, Jacob, you did the honey words at the beginning, and I appreciate you.
The honey words, I love it.
It went down smooth was the analogy.
Thank you so much. Very good. And here, first time on the show, content creator, VTuber, streamer, Miss VVitch. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
We are so ecstatic to have you, especially because I think you've played the most Doki Doki Literature Club out of all of us, maybe more than all of us combined. But before we get to that, I'd love to know about what you do.
I am a VTuber streamer. I just play mostly, like comfortable games. I suppose you would say. Stardew Valley's the bread and butter Minecraft. But I'm also a dating sim connoisseur. I have played hundreds of hours of various dating sims and otome games. It's one of my defining personality traits at this point.
Well then, Flora, you'll have to ask about recommendations for other dating sims and the like at the end of the show. But if folks want to find you on the web, where's the best place they can do that?
Best place is on Twitter at Miss VVitch. 2 V's instead of the W.
Which, this is the first time you've been on our podcast. One of the things we like to do with new guests on the show is put them through what we call the Gauntlet. And it's not something to intimidate, but rather just kind of get a quick series of impressions on your gaming history, your tastes, your experiences, etc. And so, first question, I'll just go down the list in case you have the document open here. Mm-hmm. Have you ever pretended to be sick to get out of something so you could play a game?
I don't know if I say I would have pretended to have been sick, but I have definitely made up excuses as to, you know what, no, because the easy excuse is, oh, I'm not feeling good. Yeah, I just don't want to go out. I want to stay home, and that's low-key I just want to play my games.
Any games in particular?
This is going to sound so bad, but probably Minecraft.
Were you, sucked into some particular build, or were you playing with friends, or, what was the context? Why was that Minecraft session so compelling?
Anytime you boot up Minecraft, in a world with other people, you just get... Minecraft is sort of like, when you're playing with other folks, it's very fleeting. You don't know how long it's going to last, and when it's good, it's good. So it's like, you got to get the good in while it's good. Because then you won't touch it for 6 months.
Yeah, agreed. That aligns with my experience. What's your earliest gaming memory? First game you remember playing, or first game you remember, sticking with you?
Probably Pokemon Yellow on the Game Boy Color.
Nice.
Cool.
And Paperboy, which is a weird one, but that's the one I remember playing the most because my dad really liked it.
You don't know that game, Flora?
No, what's the game?
Paperboy. You're a paperboy and you're biking down the street and you have to throw the papers at the houses and you try to get them in the mailbox, if not maybe on the doorstep, but you also have to try to not hit certain things, try and not knock people out, or I think you can try to not hit a dog, and doesn't a dog chase you at some point?
Yeah,
you can get chased by the dog. It's kind of like
Lake,
game.
but the arcade game, if you've played Lake.
Oh my gosh. That sounds mischievous. I love it. I should check that out, unironically. So, of all the games you've played, what are some of the games that you've spent, too much time playing, other than perhaps Doki Doki?
My game with the highest hours, and I'm going to say this is across, all systems I've ever played, is Skyrim.
Okay.
Between what did it release on? PS3? PS4? Yeah.
Yep.
Between that 100, I think on Steam I have like 500 hours. And
Wow.
most of my time is put in on the consoles. I don't have a PS3 to check the original files, but I would guess close to the 1,000 mark. I love Skyrim. It's so fun.
Gotcha. I would have expected Stardew Valley, to be honest.
No,
but
it's Skyrim.
okay. Good choice, to be honest. Do you have any controversial gaming opinions?
Get your lawyers
Not.
on the phone.
I'm gonna get canceled. No. Honestly, no, I probably really don't. I kind of just mind my business when it comes to...
That's fair.
The most controversial opinion is probably that I really like dating sims and otomes, and I think they're really good. And they are valid.
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna get there with the conversation today, but I also feel that way. I'm a big dating sim fan myself, so I'm glad that you're like on the same team. I know the stigma all too well.
I would like to ask a follow-up. Are you Team Mario, Team Luigi? Because that may be controversial here.
I know Luigi had like his own year and everything. And so like people are big like Luigi comeback, like Luigi's the underdog. I don't care about you know what? My controversial opinion, I don't like Mario. I don't like Mario
like
games.
the whole world. Fair. Very good. Okay.
I don't
thought
like
for a
Mario
second you were
games.
going to be like Mario Switzerland, but it sounds like you're not Mario Switzerland at all.
No, I just don't like Mario games, period. Mario Party, bad. Mario platforming,
Wow.
not a fan. I don't like.
Wait, you play Mario Kart. How do you square that?
Oh, it's a driving game. It's not a platformer.
From
Good.
no hot
Good.
takes, like no hot takes to Mario bad. That's big turn.
Potentially the most controversial thing that has ever been said when we ask that
Most
question.
likely, yes.
So, folks are usually like, I don't like Pikachu, or like, Squirtle sometimes is bad, to Mario bad. So, anyway, Flora, sorry.
Okay. Doki Doki Literature Club is a game that is deceptively wholesome, but in fact is going to ruin your life, presumably, with how its characters take various turns within the narrative. So we should probably go ahead and segue into that. Doki Doki Literature Club is a game that was developed and published by Team Salvato. The Plus version, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, was released in 2021, and the original was 2017. So there were different people who worked on this game. Serenity Forge and P-Cube ended up publishing the Plus edition. It has some tweaks to it, but is overall the same game. It was released on Linux, Mac OS, Windows, and then with Plus, Switch, PS4 and 5, Xbox systems, Windows, and Mac. So let's start off with the fast pitch. If you had to describe this game in one sentence, how would you talk about Doki Doki? Katie.
I actually have one. After my recent failures at fast pitches, I have one. I'm ready. It is the most cheerfully soundtracked visual novel horror show. That is my fast pitch.
Well encapsulated. Jacob.
I also prepared one today and said, what if Jordan Peele's Get Out was a visual novel dating sim?
Oh, see, you're just so good at that.
Man.
Good job.
Florida, do you maybe want to go third?
I can certainly come in here. Okay, off the top of my head, Doki Doki Literature Club is a game for fans of dating sims and visual novels, but actually a game that will haunt you for the rest of your life.
I would say it is the only dating sim that people who don't like dating sims would enjoy. In fact, it is not for people who enjoy dating sims whatsoever.
Even though you just said something antithetical to my pitch, I think you're actually completely correct. I think that our two co-hosts here are probably not dating sim fans, if I had to guess. And to hear that sort of subversion right off the bat, I wonder to what extent we need a background in being dating sim fans to appreciate what happens and what twists are turned throughout the game. would either of you like to make a response to that, or should I carry us through?
Yeah, we could talk about our pass. So I have had basically zero dating sim experience outside of Stardew Valley, which it's a component of that game. It is not the focus of that game. It's like a little side dash of dating sim. And also visual novels, not really. And anime. Not a big anime fan. So this game was being talked about, us playing it or doing a podcast on it. And I thought, you know what? I know it's short. I know that people talk about it very highly. Like I've heard a lot about Doki Doki. And I thought, you know what? If there's one of these to try out and just take a shot at, it seems like it's this one. And if I'm 10 minutes in and I'm like, nope, I'm just going to nope out, then it's okay because we have other people to be on this pod. So I thought I'd give it a try, and I was pleasantly surprised with my experience.
Pleasantly?
I mean, not pleasantly, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
It was worth my time.
Good. I love that. Jacob.
I have played a decent amount of visual novels. I have spoken about the Zero Escape series on this podcast. I really enjoy them. Although I've not really played a dating sim, I don't think ever. I think like Dream Daddy has been on my playlist for years, but I've never played one like Katie. Components of games where there's dating elements, sure. But this would be my first. And boy, do we pick a good one for that.
Yeah, amazing. You're making me feel like I'm some romantic sap or something. I know that you have like a whole plethora, but like, I should probably out you as a Hatoful Boyfriend fan. Any others that are peak visual novels or dating sims for you?
Oh, that's so hard because there's so many good ones. I feel like I don't know if Danganronpa counts as like a visual. There's some gameplay elements. But it's like you're mostly reading and walking around in that game. Danganronpa is really good. I have played the Nonary games, 999, very good. Okay. Lots of otomes. Most recently, Pio Fiore, 1926. Cafe Enchanté. I'm a big connoisseur of the visual. I don't read, but I read visual novels.
They're kind of like books.
It's a very expensive book.
This one is billed as a literature club, so quite the text-based experience to delve through. My history as far as like visual novels and stuff goes, like if I'm kind of embarrassed. If you look at my Steam Perfect Games category, most of them are dating sims or visual novels of some variety. Like half of the 40 games I've gotten all the achievements in are some variety of visual novel or dating sim. I think some of the ones that Witch mentions are in line with my interests as well. Though I have not played the 999 games, I definitely should. And some of them are like less wholesome, of course, but we certainly don't need to go into those discrepancies here. Just to give some context for Doki Doki specifically, this game came out on the same day as, Jacob, how do you say this? Pokken Tournament DX?
Yeah, Pokken Tournament is the Pokemon fighting game that came out on Switch.
Okay. Yeah. I had never heard of it. Project Cars 2, SteamWorld Dig 2 also came out on the same day, same week. Danganronpa, speaking of which, V3 came out, Killing Harmony, and Cuphead. So, good year for video games, 2017, and this one is free, albeit. So, anyway, it's kind of astonishing that some of us have waited like 5 years to touch this. So, we've covered our experience with dating sims and sort of the context here. How did we play? Where did you play this game initially?
PC. Steam.
PC, okay. Have you revisited Plus at all? And same question to the rest of you.
I did. I didn't do any of the extra content, though.
Okay, got you. Katie?
PC, and I played the original.
Okay, Jacob?
Yeah, PC, the original. I did think about buying Plus because it's literally on everything, but I figured, hey, you know what? For once, I'm not going to buy a game on multiple consoles. I did it. I did it, y'all.
Self-control exercised. I played this originally, the free version on Steam, and then bought the Plus edition at some point. I wanted to compare mostly the additional content, but also whether the presentation was different. And at some point, I can speak to those differences. But I've done like 14 hours total between the two versions.
Whoa.
So it feels like a pretty heavy investment for a game that is otherwise free. We should probably talk about like what this game is. We've said visual novel, we said dating sim, but like the first, if I had to estimate, 2 hours is very much straightforward. You probably buy into everything that is happening. Would anyone like to talk about their first impressions with this game? Katie.
I can start. So I had not yet started this game when Jacob came into the group chat and said, breaking the cardinal rule, typically save it for the pod. But he said, oh my God, like mind blown, I'm not okay. And I thought, what?
Literally.
How? Why? I don't understand. And then I started playing this game. And about an hour in, had I not heard that, it's actually a good thing that you did this, Jacob, because had I not heard that, I might have noped out. Because I was like, this isn't for me. Like, I get what they're doing. It's nice. But I'm not. I probably would not have kept playing. I probably said, guys, I'm out. Everybody, I'm out. And then I hung on because I'm like, something's going to happen that's going to shake things up. So my initial experience was dating sim. Very nice. Just not for me.
It's very saccharine in the beginning.
Yes,
like it's
very much.
Like a lot of dating sims have this like wish fulfillment fantasy within them where it wants to give you gratification for simply existing, and it like praises you incessantly for being you, whatever that means. And like the protagonist in this game is framed as some like somewhat reluctant but very much let's say attractive or dateable sort of person, and everyone that you meet in this game falls for you first conversation, basically. And so like that alone, just as a descriptor, might be a barrier, might put some people off, and I probably would expect that happened to you. How about Jacob?
So I first heard about this game through Game Theory, the YouTube channel, Matt Pat, because I was watching. Never played a Five Nights at Freddy's game. That's a lie. I've played the first one for a little bit, but I watch all of the Five Nights at Freddy's content, him breaking down exactly what's happening in the world. And I discovered this game because of his channel. He finds these games. And so I knew about this game, and I actually knew about where it went because I watched the video about like the end of it. But the thing that shocked me most, without diving into it entirely, is the switch, like how quickly the saccharine to like bitter, I guess if you will, switch gets flipped. And we'll talk about it in a bit, but I legitimately don't think I've been not okay like this playing a video game potentially ever.
Yeah, this might be the point where I need to apologize to both of you for making you play this game without actually telling you what to
I wanted to.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, no, I enjoy being surprised and shocked by a game and going, oh my God, this isn't what I thought it was. So no, I no harm, no foul for sure.
And I knew what it was, and I've played games that have similar. At what point do we say spoilers are happening?
Now, might as well.
Now.
Yeah,
okay,
like,
so
bail if you haven't played this game. It's not that long. It's worth discovering for yourself. Thank you for being here, but you can pause it safely. We will otherwise exhaust the shock potential that this game has, which I think is really the thing that makes it so compelling.
I've played other games like Inscription that have these sort of like real hard twists. I will not spoil Inscription, I promise. But I was expecting the twist, but I don't think I was expecting it as early as it came.
Yeah, definitely. What was, like, I know I'm probably asking you to reach back several years, but did you have a sense of the twist incoming playing the game for the first time, or did it, like me, like totally take you off guard?
So I knew, obviously, going in that there's something that's not quite right, and you're just like waiting for that moment the whole time. Yeah. And so at some point it starts to sort of like build up, and it's like, oh no, no. And yeah, that's just sad.
I don't remember, because Jacob and Katie, and presumably yourself, which I think, does the original game have a content warning? Because Plus does. When you first launch it, it tells you, weirdly, the first thing is that all the characters are at least 18 years old. Uncomfortable disclaimer to have to make, but I could probably imagine why. And then, it had a content warning, and if you want to click on it and read the different things that might trigger you, then it will then enumerate them with full spoiler detail. So was that present? Yeah, Katie.
The original, I don't believe, says anything about the age of the characters.
Does not.
And I don't think that there was an optional list where you could read the things, but there was a content warning that basically said this may be disturbing for, if your children should not play this. And also if you find themes of like depression and anxiety triggering, then you maybe consider whether or not you should play this game. But that pretty much is the whole content warning, I'm pretty sure.
What do you
Although the game starts to play with those content warnings later, which is kind of a...
Oh, yeah, it literally, it shows you them again, but distorted and changed? Is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah. Yes.
'Cause I didn't know if that was something that carried over directly, because there are changes between these two versions. They're not so significant that we need to have, a sidebar on it, but I was just curious because I haven't touched the original game in, 4 years. But, for anyone, Witch, Katie, or Jacob, what do you make of seeing a content warning at the beginning of this? Did that linger with you? Did that shape your expectations for the game? Or, Jacob, of course, you had, some of the expectations sculpted by some other analysis of this game. I think that, personally, that inspires a bit of dread, but I'm also able to forget about it. How did any of you navigate that?
I felt similarly. I kind of see it and I go, oh, okay, but it's not something that's playing on my mind. Although I kind of knew that we were going to go down a disturbing road just from Jacob's post in the group chat. So yeah. It wasn't so much the warning that made me think that, more so that, but it sets you up that you're like, oh, this isn't going to be all rainbows and unicorns. It's not going to be puppies here. Something's going to happen. Yeah. So yeah, it sets a little bit of an altered expectation than it would have just without the content warning, for sure.
Fair.
I went into it fully braced to, again, content warnings about all the things that Flora just said. We're going to talk about anxiety, depression, self-harm, and death. I knew those things were in this game. But I think it truly was the false sense of security that I was lulled into, and then the execution, from a production standpoint, with which the depictions of suicide were depicted, that really threw me.
Yeah.
And also this content warning overlaid across this ba-ba-da-da-da-da music, and it's all pinks and blues and purples and and they're happy, and you have your dating sim characters, and I'm like, It's an interesting comparison to make.
Which, any impressions or turns for you?
Yeah, so again, I enjoy horror content quite a bit, and I consume a lot of spooky, stuff. So you see the disclaimer, and it doesn't I play a good chunk of horror games. I watch a lot of horror movies. I'm like, oh, whatever. Graphic imagery. Someone's
jaded, completely jaded. Whatever.
Yes,
sure.
I'm like, whatever. And then you get to that point. This game extremely puts me off because of the stuff it depicts. For I do enjoy horror. Nothing unsettles me. I've watched horror since I was very young. Growing up on the internet, you see all of this gross, extremely graphic stuff, and you're just jaded to it. But this was extremely uncomfortable, and I'm not personally a fan of it. The depictions of suicide and the self-harm that's shown. It's all the weird spooky eyeball stuff, glitchy stuff, whatever. But I'm there's the suicide and the self-harm is oof. Nothing could have prepared me for that.
Yeah, I think a question we will arrive at is whether we think that the game handles its subject matter in a way that is respectful and authentic, But we probably have some more table setting to do before we get there. And so just to kind of streamline us towards that question, I think one of the things in this game that makes itself very apparent early on is that you are trying to romance these characters. You're just this kind of faceless guy. It is coded as a guy as the main character, and you're joining a high school, I think, literature club in Japan, and so you are dragged by your childhood friend Sayori, and you meet these other three young women who are Yuri. She's a sort of bookish psychological type. There's Natsuki, who's sort of like is it tsundere? I don't know how to say that word. I shouldn't have said that out loud. A hard to approach, let's say, character type who opens up to you as you get to know them. And then there's Monika, who's the club president, who is sort of ultimately bubbly and encouraging and enthusiastic, but you don't actually have the option to romance her. So I guess sort of one of the questions that we should touch on is how we approached the poetry minigame. So the first 30 minutes in this game, you learn about these characters, you learn about their personalities, and you kind of subconsciously decide which one of them you're going to end up romancing in the game. And then through a poetry minigame, you have the chance to experience one-on-one scenes with any of them. So the options the game gives you are Yuri, Natsuki, and Sayori. And I want to know who you all first romanced in that game. I'll start with which?
Yuri.
Okay. Would you like to talk about why?
My type is... I don't like I wanted to actually date Monika. I wanted to date Monika at the start. And I was like, oh, maybe you have to kind of being around the book, unlock her. I was like, oh, maybe I just got to date the other. So I was like, oh, Yuri's cute enough. I like the kind of shy, reserved girl. I wanted to date Monika. And so I was trying to get every chance I could to date Monika at the start. But I realized this isn't going to work out. So I did go for Yuri. I just like shy, quiet girl.
Yeah. Okay. Jacob.
Same. That is which I guess we have the same type here. I was very much all over Yuri, although I didn't really understand the poetry minigame right away. I was dense and thought when I started, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll have to do a Mad Lib. Maybe that's how the poetry minigame works. But it truly is, you just pick a word that resonates with the three main characters that are romanceable. And so I started on the Sayori route, but then Sayori is classic girl next door, and so I was just Yuri, reserved, quiet, bookish, attractive, and so went for Yuri, I guess. Katie. I'm getting shy now.
Y'all look so bashful. I love it.
Same. Yuri? Yeah.
Let's go! Full Yuri panel.
Sayori, I was just oh, it's your cutesy friend. I was like, oh, you're my friend. And then Natsuki was just kind of moody. I'm like, I don't know. And then I don't know, Yuri was more quiet. And also, I'm not generally the peppiest person most of the time. And I was like, no, that's my vibe. They're just chill, likes books, and we'll probably make for some interesting conversations. So yes, I went for Yuri.
As my outburst revealed, I also went for Yuri. I think that I could add the accoutrements of emphasizing her traits and everything, but she's hot, she's smart, she's got all the good words in the poems. I'm not ashamed to admit that I think anime characters are attractive and trick your brain and all that good stuff. So she plays into literally everything. Even the game says at some point that well, actually, I don't know if I should say this on the podcast. Edit me out if you want, but her boobs grow a size, and Natsuki teases her for it between when you join the literature club and when it's remarked upon. So
yeah, she gets accused of stuffing her bra,
which is one of the moments. Exactly. One of the moments where I went, "This isn't for me." Yeah. It's just not for me.
I have to say though, with respect to Natsuki, Natsuki felt too young. I know that the plus
that
version
too,
of the game
absolutely
had an 18 plus, but Natsuki had said that they're a junior, and I was just I'm staying away from this.
Either young. She failed or this is college, and I don't believe either. And it's just Yeah, I think the age thing is actually something worth grappling with. It makes me uncomfortable on a replay. I think first playthrough, I was a little bit like laissez-faire and didn't really care too much, and I was just willing to accept the story. But going back and with a critical eye, knowing what to expect, and then noticing things that are pointed out in the game, it did make me feel deeply uncomfortable as someone who routinely interacts with people of that age. I think that this game would be better if it was more clear, but I guess that's why they added the warning at the very beginning. This game largely proceeds as it is set up in the beginning. You play your poetry minigames, you win over little one-on-one scenes, fan service happens, and then all of a sudden, the illusion breaks. Katie was suggesting that this game it takes a really hard turn. I felt in a replay that one turn is sort of hinted at. There's a scene where you go to Sayori's house to check in on her, and it turns out that she is just having a depressed day. And it turns out that the reason when you walk her to school every day that she's a little bit later than you are is because she is depressed and has trouble getting out of bed and getting ready on time. And so I think the game suggests its subject matter in the text for the first time around that scene, but then it takes a hard 90-degree turn, you might say. Would anyone like to walk us through that specific scene?
Yeah, sure.
I can.
Because I imagine
let's do it together.
It most recently devastated you all, so I'd like to hear your initial thoughts. I've come to terms with this for like 4 years, so...
Yeah, Katie, you and I can go back and forth, but Sayori, as has been stated, in my playthrough, it was like about an hour in, starts to talk about her depression, and that's the moment where I went, oh, this is not the game, like, you're lulled into this saccharine sense of security, and then she talks about her depression and how, Monika also, I believe, alludes to the fact that sometimes, she comes late because she has difficulty getting out of bed in the morning, depression, and she doesn't come to school one day. And so even knowing that, oh no, like the dark tones of this game and dark undertones, I probably knew what I was walking into, but it's very much like visual novels where you're quickly going between scenes. So it's like you're in the classroom, you're in the hallway, you're outside the school, you're outside her house, you're going up her stairs, and you open the door. And imagine that this game graphically is incredibly simple, and it is just essentially JPEGs that maybe move a little bit, and then you open the door. And I have goosebumps right now talking about this. The camera starts to, the scene looks very different. It looks almost like that anime JPEG became a horror movie all of a sudden. The music shifts to horror movie music. And then there are close-ups of Sayori, who has hung herself, and is just slowly drifting back and forth, on the ceiling. Really scary stuff. Katie?
Yeah, it's the hard shift that really gets you, is that you've been doing the same thing for, like you said, about an hour at least, and you are, yes, lulled into your expectations of how things are going to be shown to you and portrayed to you. And the music, too, is this hard shift into this, like, it's very unsettling, and... yeah, it kind of snaps you out of what you've been doing. And I think that's mostly why most of these things in this game have such an impact, is because it's layered over this cutesy, happy music and colors and this and that. And this juxtaposition, like, just shocks you every time they do that. And then it gets more and more, like, severe as you go on through the game. But, yeah, that's the first one. It takes you back for sure. But, yeah.
I just want to quickly read what I put in our Discord chat. And again, we have a cardinal rule in this podcast not to talk about like major story beats until we get on the mics, just so that our reactions to the way we played is genuine. But I absolutely had to write down what I experienced, and I spoiler tagged it, but I wrote, despite kind of knowing what I was walking into with Sayori's bedroom, I can't remember a time that I've hit save and quit faster in a video game. I got full body chills, and I'm currently sitting staring at my desktop shivering. The execution of what happened was wild, and I didn't even experience the whole thing. Literally, as soon as it happened, hit save quit, and I just like yeeted myself out of my out of it. I couldn't do it.
Any impressions, Witch, there?
Waki, because at some point you start to expect it. Sayori starts to kind of picking fights with the other girls, because you go through the same thing, very routine. You show up, you get your little moment with whoever you're trying to romance, you write a poem, and then there's like the common sort of route bit where that's going to happen regardless. And then Sayori starts to kind of act up. She picks fights. She just becomes more distant and sort of estranged. And then, the day comes. It's the festival day. Sayori's not there. And Monika, like, edges you to sort of...
She's kind of the instigator, isn't she? She likes to push some buttons and watch what happens. She's like, oh, by the way, in case you didn't know. Like, it's like, what are you up to?
And that's like, she does. I used horrible phrasing there. But
I'm sorry I cringed at that. I couldn't help myself.
I know, I saw it. I was like, oh,
Choice
man.
of words. Anyway, I got your point.
And then you go and you find her there, and it's like, even though I didn't romance her, she wasn't my first choice. That sounds rude. But I'm not into the childhood friend trope. It's still, because I still liked her. It's so sad. And, like, if you're a person that's ever gone through, like, depression and, like, suicidal, it's like, it's extremely sad and devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with Sayori, it's a weird combination of emotions, right? Like, I think we haven't talked about it directly, but there's a moment before we walk in on her being hanged in her room where you spend a full day with somebody, and that's entirely contingent upon one of the poems that you've written and who you've chosen to spend your time with to prepare for the festival. In the game, that can either be Yuri or Natsuki and nobody else, as far as I'm aware. Of course, naturally, I was like, oh, Yuri, yay. And I went to her house and she like told me about her knife fetish and whatever. But aside from that, when you leave Yuri's house or Natsuki's house, Sayori confronts you, and there's a conversation about how jealous she feels about the fact that you just spent your free time and your day with her, this other girl, and how she feels like potentially her sort of romantic affections have not been reciprocated in a meaningful way. And you have a choice with your dialogue to say either you love her or she will always be like your best friend. I kind of want to know what we selected there. I think that's actually really influential, but unfortunately it doesn't really change the outcome of Sayori ending her life. Can I come to you, Katie, first and ask what you did with that dialogue option?
Best friend. It's the truth. You know, you only make things worse by avoiding the truth in the long term, typically. So you're like, well, this feels not great to do because of the state that she's in, but it's also worse to go the other way. So yeah, no, I told the truth.
Yeah. Jacob.
Did any of y'all ever watch Cruel Intentions?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't.
Of course I did.
Okay. So, Sayori is Reese Witherspoon in Cruel Intentions.
I disagree, but okay, sure.
That's all I can follow in my mind.
I'll follow you around this bend, fine. We could debate this elsewhere, but...
Follow me. It's almost like we have a movie podcast. Let's debate it. No, I had Girl Next Door vibes, and so I picked Best Friend, not expecting what happened next.
Yeah. Witch, how about you?
Yeah, I picked Best Friend. I was in full trying to date Yuri route, so...
Same. Absolutely the same. Like, that was... It was a mixture of Katie's sort of ethical consideration, and I'm just, like, a selfish simp, and Yuri's hot, and I'm going down that rabbit hole. So I'm with you on both fronts. I think that it's kind of astonishing that none of us did the, like, obviously self-sacrificial thing and said you loved her and whatever, because I think the game does a really good job of like setting you up to ignore her, and then when it demands that her mental health be a major concern for you, it's really somehow easy to blow it off. And I wonder to what extent that has like commentary for us as people in the world to like reflect on, but also like in the game itself, the fact that 4 out of 4 of us, well, I guess Yuri was also very persuasive, but 4 out of 4 of us ignored that plea for help in a way that, like, okay, the game gives you a binary. Fine, we're trapped. But, like, I think we all know that was a cry for help and that we should have acted on it, or in theory, if we had a third option, we would have acted on it. And so, anyway, I don't know. Jacob, what do you do with that?
I guess as you said, it was a very simple binary, and I get what this game is. At the initial version of the game was very simple, very short. My thought was like, sure, the choice of I love you or you're my best friend is a binary, but my thought was, oh, maybe the next choice will be like, do I ignore you or do I like bring you in for a hug and try and be your best friend?
Do I
which
spend
I was
time
for?
with you or something like that?
Yeah. Because it sounds like we were all romantically interested in Yuri, but we didn't want to leave our friend who clearly was having some severe mental health issues hanging. But again, simple binary, so you just have to say best friend and watch what happens next.
After Sayori disappears in the story, the game then presents you with a sort of end state. It sort of does, lack of a better term, a credits roll. And you can either choose to keep playing, hit start on the game again, or you cannot. And I want to know how we reacted to that and whether we actually saw that there was a second playthrough coming after Sayori's death. Because like Jacob said, and I'll hand it straight to you, the reaction you describe is like, oh, no, I'm out of this game. No, thank you. Too intense. Bye. At what point did you decide to come back? At what point did you realize that there was more? And how did that unfold?
Yeah, so I think the way I approached it is probably different than y'all, in that, like I said, I yeeted myself out of that program so fast, basically F4'd out of the game. I did save, though, and I posted a screenshot in our Discord, and it has Sayori hanging in the actual screenshot of the load screen. But I exited out, and I said, okay, I'm going to give myself a few minutes, and then like start to see what happens again. And I started it back up, and all of my saves were gone. So I didn't see credits. I thought to myself, like, oh, there's probably something that I have to, unfortunately, like, key through. But when I loaded it back up, the game was already started to glitch out and was, for all intents and purposes, what I thought was a clean save. I thought that I had done something wrong when I did it. So when that happened, I was like, nope, not playing this game. And the next time I played the game, my partner had to be in the room.
Damn. Okay.
So I tried to show that scene to my spouse. I was like, no, this hard turn that this game took, because he's like, he knew that I wasn't enthused about what I was playing. So he was like, how's it going over there? I'm like, it's fine. And then I was like, whoa, hard turn, just the shift. I want to just show him just like how they executed that, and like the sounds and the visuals and all that stuff. So I tried to load up a save shortly before that. So I opened it up and went, oh, they're gone. Okay. And that's where I started to feel very unsettled. Because once a game starts to play outside of the core game and it starts to like reach out elsewhere, I'm a sucker for that. Every single time I've played a game that has that component in it, I'm like, ooh, it's deeper than that. And it's you get to like explore it a little bit more and see what they're going to do. And you don't know, like it resets your expectations where like anything can happen. Absolutely anything. So yeah, I couldn't load up the game and I went, I guess it's a new game now. And Sayori is basically taken out of the title screen, but she's still there, but like other character little pieces of the other characters are like puzzle pieced over top of her, so she's gone, but there's still like a figure there. So it's like, oh, you know, she was there. It's not like, oh, it's only these three people now. It's like, no, there was a person here, but she's kind of gone, but you remember because we're going to show it. Yeah, I loved all that.
There's a moment with Sayori's death. It's the first explicit clue, and there might be something earlier, I don't know, but like where the game tells you to start digging around in its files. We see that through the implied glitchiness, but like when Sayori dies, not only does the background change and we see like echoes of the menu and the developer and things, but we also see a file that's named explicitly. And if you stop what you're doing and you go and open that file, it will tell you about what's going on. It's not like a lore dump, but it's like a from the character's perspective information sort of thing.
What?
The game.
What now?
The game is filled.
Text file.
I didn't look at
Yes.
that. Oh.
I forget what it is, but it's like it says something like chapter 5 or whatever, dot whatever. And if you open it, there's information to be gleaned. And the game is chock full of this stuff as well. Like, I don't know how much digging any of us did, but in the original game, if I'm not mistaken, you have to actually go into your game files and actually touch things and like move things around inside of your Steam folder. In Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, which I just replayed, there's an in-game OS. And so you can like hit the exit button inside of the game and it will give you a fake desktop where you can do the same thing.
See, I like it. I think it's creepier not in game.
Yes.
Where it's actually within your computer. I like that better, personally.
Totally agree. It could not be more effective in how it uses that information. But I assume I'm the only one, and maybe Witch, who have dug around in the actual files, minus the, we're not there yet somehow, but the Monika stuff, which we will get to. Witch, did you dig around in any of that? Does any of that speak to your experience?
Oh, absolutely. Because I do love when a game goes and starts messing with files, posting things to your desktop. I eat it up. I love it. It's so good. So, of course, it's like, immediately start, digging around, clicking through things. Because seeing when Sayori's just, like, haphazardly photoshopped off the front of the thing, it's the most heartbreaking thing, especially after what you've just witnessed. It's like, I think at some point I tried to take the file, I went and found it, and I tried to pop it back in, and nothing happened, but I was like, my girl, it's so sad.
So weirdly, you can actually put Sayori's file back in the game, apparently. I have not done this, but this is a secondhand thing that I read about. And when you do, her only dialogue is like, stop this is so painful, let me out, let me die, whatever. And she will just loop that, more or less. Yes, so like the game accounts for the fact that you might have that reaction, which I think is so clever and even more creepy. Like, just, this game lives with you in a way that's like, you can't simply exit the program. There's more to like do with the stuff that it gives you. We're only talking about the first ending so far. Like, there's multiple acts, multiple endings. You have to replay the game. I kind of want to know, before we get into the rest of that stuff, leading up to Monika, what it was like to start the game again and see so much of it be similar, but start to notice the cracks. Does anyone have any impressions they'd like to take and kind of walk us through of like either what you noticed or what freaked you out or whatever? Katie?
Just creeped out. Just mainly, generally creeped out. Where there are characters saying things that are more, a little bit more extreme and not as simple and forward facing. Like, they're everyone's a little on edge a bit. And then they're doing things with the text where text will just like run across your screen in big bold letters, like that have color to them. And it's just unsettling and creepy. And as I was playing, I thought, no, as I was clicking forward, because I was just so unsettled.
So apparently some of those have RNG elements, by the way.
What?
Which is to say that,
really?
like, we all probably experience different versions of how the game starts to break down, which I think is really cool. What you describe is all representative of my own experience as well, but, like, the individual lines of text, or, like, if a character's neck snaps suddenly or whatever, like, those things... Yeah, sorry. Those things can absolutely be contingent upon your local file, which is crazy. Jacob?
Wild. Yeah, for me it was, like I said, I had to have my partner in the room, and what I made sure to do is literally I was like, imagine I was stretched out like as far away from the computer as possible, just like touching the mouse button just to be like going forward. And I took the headphones off and put it through a speaker just so I wouldn't, because the audio started to get me as well. But it was the little things. It was, an eyeball popping out here. Sorry. It was, the big thing was Monika like being in front of the text box, even just over top of the text box, where I was like, nope, don't want to do this. That really got me. And the biggest thing was when you first started up, you go through the literal path that you started on in your first playthrough, but the mention of Sayori is just replaced with a bunch of random characters.
Yeah.
So, yeesh.
Creepy. Quick. You talk about having to have your partner present in the room so that you felt better. I I played this in 2 sessions. The second session, my spouse was outside of the house, not here, and I was actually happy with that because I could freely be like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, as I was clicking through and like, no, with no self-consciousness whatsoever, being aware that I'm just yelling at a computer screen. So I had the opposite feeling of being like, well, it's probably for the best that he's just not here.
Yeah, my partner was playing Bear and Breakfast on her Switch,
Nice.
sitting on my couch like 2 minutes away, and every time something creepy would happen, would be like, look, and she'd be like, I'm managing my bear hotel.
Yeah,
Please
she's
leave
like,
me alone.
I'm very content over here while you play whatever you're playing, but I'm
Yeah,
happy.
Exactly.
Which, any impressions on that either?
I do remember distinctly, like, time for the headphones to maybe, like, shift slightly. I do not mess with the loud sound jump scares. I am not a fan, but I was like, oh. Because at that point, it's like, after just seeing someone hanging there, it's like, none of this stuff is getting to me. Until Yuri comes around and is doing Yuri activities. That's somehow even worse than having to see your best childhood friend hanging, is Yuri becoming more and more unhinged. And after especially dating her at the start, you spend the first act dating her. You go into this and she's completely unhinged. The self-harm stuff starts to come into play, and that's extremely disturbing and uncomfortable. And it's, oof.
That was also really unsettling for me because the first act of the game feels more, I mean, it's a dating sim. It is, it's doing what it's doing, but it feels more like based in reality a little bit, just a little bit compared to the rest of the game. And then things get more and more extreme as you go on, and characters are acting in a way that's not less believable, but like it's just more erratic. And where I'm like, I don't know what anyone's going to do. I don't know what anyone's going to say. Anything can happen at any moment. So Yuri becoming more what Yuri becomes was, super uncomfortable. And just like, I felt dread. I'm just like, oh no, what are we going to do next? Oh no. And it just gets worse.
Well, I think one of the beautiful things about why that's so like unsettling and shocking is that the game actually sets you up to see those things in Yuri's character, and so like the fact that she ends up doing things like self-harm, she stabs herself with a knife, is believable in a way. Like when you write a poem to get her affection in the early game, some of her words are like ethereal, like philosophy and like existentialism and whatever, but some of them are also like graveyard and like,
or like massacre,
torture. Yeah, like massacre. I think that's literally a word.
It is.
Those things, they tell you what this character is, but it's a matter of whether you recognize that in the character or not. And I think that that's personally brilliant. Like Natsuki is like cupcakes, strawberries, icing, like all good words. And when I first played this game, I didn't notice the thing that Jacob called himself a dum-dum for not noticing right away, which is that the characters bounce with excitement when you pick their word. I didn't notice that somehow first playthrough. I didn't like internalize that, oh, I just picked this character's word. But like I was building a poem based on what I was interested in. I was like, oh, philosophy. Oh, existentialism. Those are my things. And so I'm going to pick those when I write a poem. And like, no, the game is like warning you just quietly. I find that very unsettling, but in a satisfying way that doesn't feel like cheap or twisty or like B horror film flick or whatever. Jacob,
Can we address the elephant in the room, though?
there's probably still several.
I don't think we've talked about Monika on one single iota.
I think that's literally the perfect segue because that was where I was going to take us next. I think Monika, as far as that character goes, is signaled from day one in the game. This is not a normal character. You literally can't write a poem for her. You cannot romance her. She is like, she speaks in ways that upon a replay are obviously to the player, not to the character. And so I think the value in a character like Monika is that you probably, despite all of those very clear signs, miss those signs. Do we feel like we missed them? Or did we feel like we snuffed Monika out from the beginning and like knew that she was kind of in control of everything? I'll throw it to Witch. What did you think about Monika on her first playthrough?
Definitely towards the end half of sort of like the normal like playthrough at the start. Towards the end half where she's like jeering you on and sort of instigating certain situations. It's very suspicious, very strange. Because it's also obvious at some point that Monika wants your attention as well, and the game very distinctly steers you off of being anyway somewhat associated to her. And then she instigates you to go to Sayori's house, and then at the start of the next like playthrough, whatever, she very clearly is talking to you directly as the player. Don't forget to save your game if something weird happens. Mm-hmm. And then, wait, can you hear me? And it's like, are you talking to Mimi? Not in this chat?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's literally the ringleader. Like she's the president of the club. And I was like, oh, I can't romance her? Okay. And I just thought, I didn't really know what to think of it. Like, there's no clear, distinct reason why you can't, aside from the fact that she's the president of the club, but that's not a good reason. And then, like you said, it steers you away from her pretty much the entire game. For me, until the clear-cut point where it steers you directly towards her, when you have to decide who you're going to help prep for the festival that weekend, and she will not let you click on the other girls. It pulls your mouse to Monika, and that was like, whoa, that was nuts to me. I'm trying to click on somebody else, but she also kind of says like, there's kind of hints that you're only going to be able to help her, but then you are moving your mouse around and it's pulling your mouse back, and it was trippy.
Wasn't there one also where it just like also like the screen went further and zoomed in so you could only pick Monika?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or there was also an option that just came up and was like Monika, just Monika.
Yeah,
and
creepy stuff.
So we learned that like Monika is taking control of the game itself. Like she is somehow gained sentience and also fallen in love with you, the player, not necessarily the character, the player, the person who's doing all these things. And I think one of the brilliant conceits of Doki Doki is that it wants to frame the actions that you're taking as like without free will, so to speak. Like you're trapped inside of this thing that Monika has now orchestrated for you. And it's a question of whether you simply keep playing or don't at some level. And though I typically find that conceit within game design to be a little bit trite and uninspired, even though it breaks the fourth wall, I think that Doki Doki does something really interesting with Monika's character, where you are then given like you're put in a scene with her where it's just you and she's looking straight into your soul, and it's for hours, potentially 4 hours. I'm going to say this, on my first playthrough were spent staring into Monika's eyes, waiting to get out of that scene, because I thought on my first playthrough that once you get stripped into the reality that she is now, like, she's been deleting files and characters and narrowing your possibilities to where you only can focus on her, you were then trapped there with just her. I didn't see a way out of that scene, and I thought, just based on past video game experience, that I could just click until it was over, and it doesn't end. It literally will loop the things that she says to you. And I want to say there's like 11 hours of dialogue that is written into that scene. Like an absurd amount. I haven't seen it all, but there's an achievement in Doki Doki Plus to sit there for her for like, I think 40 different conversation starters. There's so much text, and the game will just convincingly keep going on tangents. And you just have to put up with it until you figure out what to do.
Oh my God. Also, before you do that, also with the culmination of the Yuri plotline, where she starts saying very aggressive sexual things, and she's kind of pushing that relationship, and then says like, do you love me? Or she poses a question of some sort. And then either way, regardless of what you answer, just like with, is it Sayori? She stabs herself in the stomach and the chest and dies, and you come to this screen where you're just staring at her dead body.
Yep.
And that was a moment before that where it does a similar thing where you can't, I think if you click long enough, it will advance. But I was trying to get out of it, and it was just looping and looping and looping. And then I exited out of the game entirely because I'm like, maybe they're telling me I have to close the game and open it back up, and then she's going to be taken out of the title screen also. I closed the game, booted it back up, and it didn't take me to the title screen. It took me directly straight to that same scene.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my God, what do I do? Yeah. And it's a similar...
How did you get out?
Sorry?
How did you get out of that scene? I didn't get stuck there.
I think I did it again, or I exited out again. And then the second time, it was just past that scene. Like, it had advanced me. But the first time, I exited out, brought me directly back there. And it was the creepiest thing ever.
Wow.
And then Monika it goes into that again.
I think one of the reasons that's so successfully creepy is because the game gives you these like close-up portraits with the characters that are like, again, very fan servicey, like hovering in on breasts or whatever.
Straight to a closer up portrait of Yuri again. Yeah.
And she's half dead. She's been stabbed.
Yeah, just smash cut.
Like,
straight there.
It's amazing that the game gives as much care and detail and beauty to those close-up portraits that are horrifying as the ones that are supposed to be like titillating.
And into the multiple ways that you are able to interact with a game, it utilizes basically all of them. Every way that you interact with the menus and this and that, it takes advantage of and incorporates into the game. And I'm so impressed.
Yeah. Good. That's the thing. Like, I knew that I was sending you on a death sentence voyage with this game recommendation. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I'm the reason that this made it on our schedule. Like, this game impacted me.
I think you said it, and I said, yes, I want to play that.
Well, it's like a popular game, right? Like, we probably were all like, oh, okay, that might help our like listenership or whatever. But no, sincerely, beyond the virality of it, I think this game is literally like very special. It's just, it will probably occupy your nightmares for the next couple of years or whatever. But like, I think that the storytelling mechanisms, it uses video games as a medium, as an interactive way to tell a story, I think better and more effectively than 99% of the games I've ever played. And not to be too hyperbolic or superlative with the praise there, but I do think that the reason I think about this game so often is because of the ways it challenged me to look at it as a game. And kind of in the way that Nier Automata did, but albeit with less like budget and stuff. Witch, you've been quiet. I'm curious. Do you have any thoughts on anything we've talked about?
You get to that moment where, and it's weird because when Yuri kills herself, it doesn't feel it's jarring, but it doesn't quite feel as...
It's more surreal than the first death.
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
So it doesn't, like, it's like, another one bites the dust, and then you're ready to just move on. Now it's like, at that point, it's, if you know, as someone relatively jaded to a lot of, like, this kind of stuff, I was just like, after the things the game's already showed me, I'm like, okay. Bye, Yuri.
Yeah, I think Yuri's death is very much in line with what you're saying, where it no longer has the same degree of shock that Sayori's death did. I think that nothing could shock as much as that. But still, I think the necessary unfolding of the fact that the person you're romancing is now dead or at least harmed and taken out of the story in some way, deleted perhaps, makes the surreality, to borrow Katie's word, I think it's a really good word to talk about this game, it makes it feel so much more concrete. Or at least it did to me.
Though seeing it happen was what shocked me for that death, because I thought it would be similar to the first death where I would find her, and I thought I would find her having cut herself and that she would be dead. So I didn't think that she would just do it right in front of me. So that's the part of the second one that just shocked me again.
We also haven't alluded to the fact that, like, she also has, like, real human eyeballs at some point and, like, lips. And, like, the game takes the psychological horror thing and, like, a really, like, gosh, y'all are Canadian. I don't know. do you know what Quiznos is? The sub.
Yeah.
Not a sponsor, by the way.
Yeah, we had Quiznos for a little while.
Yeah, we did.
So like there were these advertisements in the early 2000s of Quiznos where it was like this monstrosity of like a puppet or whatever. Hopefully those
It's like a
ads
hamster
escaped
or
you.
something, like a gerbil.
It was like it was like a dead gerbil, but it had like human facial parts. It was so messed up, but like that's what they used, and it reminds me of that somehow.
Yes, I agree.
Jacob, you look like you wanted to say something a moment ago. Do you still have the thought?
Well, I'm googling Quiznos hamster right now.
I'm so sorry.
So for any Canadians, especially French Canadians, there was this Tête à claque is the name of the like web series, and it very much had that like upside down face, like bottom of your like essentially the bottom of your face but upside down, and the cartoons featured that.
That's
so,
a
like,
weird show. Weird show.
Very weird. Again, one person will be like, Tête à claque, I love that thing. I'm all about obscure facts on this podcast. No, the thing that I wanted to mention is that, it was very unsettling. There was Monika talking about like breaking the fourth wall and saying like, don't forget to save your game, wink. And you're like, what? Excuse me? Yeah. And then there was the Yuri, like twice in my game, there was like flashes of very intense self-harm that we didn't really talk about. Like so I'm going to be just slightly descriptive, so skip ahead 5 seconds if you're squeamish. Essentially her whole forearm was just like covered in slashes, but it would just like flash in and flash out. And so already unsettled. And then the thing that I remember is, I thought I remembered a scene of Yuri being on the ground, essentially like the love scenes, I guess, if you will, just like her being in a position like
a koi pose.
Yeah, koi pose. And I thought that was how she was like murdered. She like, stabbed herself in that, but having it happening in game was just very unsettling.
This might be a weird RNG thing, like I was alluding to earlier in the episode, but like I don't think I saw the cut arms thing. Not to linger on that detail, but like I'm pretty certain that did not happen in my playthrough. Yeah. She simply stabbed herself in her chest and in her heart. And like her eyes went realistic and weird. The fact that those things can vary, I think, is also indicative of the way that this game feels like a lived-in Ghost in the Machine experience, where there's something cognizant happening here, or there's something that anticipates your actions in a way that is therefore unsettling. Most games do, because of playtesting, anticipate your actions. But to see something that's otherwise so streamlined and linear, like a dating sim or a visual novel, anticipate your responses as well, I think is just bizarre. Like, if you quit out of the Sayori scene when you find her in her bedroom, the game has already deleted your save, because it waits until that moment for the game, like to expect that you will want to start over because you think you did something wrong. That's like an anticipation of player desire in action. Most games don't show you that they do that, and to see it in a game shown to you, I think is what's so profound. If we can use such a moniker here.
I was going to back Jacob up for a second, because I do remember that, and that was one of the things that really put me off and disturbed me about the game, is I also very distinctly remember the scene where I think you go out to the hall and Yuri's just out there slashing away at her arm, and it's like, it's an extremely like seared into my brain. Same thing with Sayori's death. It was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think she goes out to get tea water, essentially, on the fountain.
Yes. Something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe I somehow repressed this. I know exactly the scene you're talking about. I just don't remember the arm slashing, but maybe that's for the best. I don't want my waifu to be in distress any more than she was. Sorry, I'm saying that to make everyone cringe. Clearly it's working. All right. I think we've talked a lot about this game. Do we have any other lingering thoughts that we want to bring up, things that we haven't talked about, covered, whatever? Because I think we might have spoiler exhausted this for our listeners.
I guess the one maybe thing really quickly is that we didn't talk about like the way the game ends. Finishes.
We didn't linger on that. Yes.
We didn't linger on. You said something about a moniker, and I was like, but wait, Monika.
Yeah, we get stuck with Monika. Carry us through to the credits if you can.
Yeah, so the thing that you have to end up doing, I think someone alludes to, and I forget exactly how it's delivered, but someone is like, delete me, or delete my character.
She says it to you.
She says it to you.
Yes.
She essentially in the dialogue says like, it's not like you're going to go delete me in the game files or something.
Yeah, she mentions how she did it to the other characters. She's like, it was easy. I just opened up the Steam and I went
to this folder.
Yeah, I went to this folder and I did manage folders and then I deleted them. And but you would never do that to me. And I was like, oh, okay. Thank you, Monika.
Yeah. So you exit the game, you delete Monica's character file, who is the only character left in the actual character file. I think they're like .chr files if you're in Windows. You delete it, you start it back up, and Monika is gone. But to my knowledge, from what I remember, all three of the other characters are there, and then something unsettling happens. Something different that's unsettling happens.
I didn't close the game when I deleted her.
Oh.
I just windowed out,
happened?
opened up Steam, did it, and came back. And
Same.
per my recollection, which is hazy at times, but I'm still in the room, but she's like gone.
She like glitches out.
Yeah. It was great.
That's wild.
Loved it.
Well, the fact that the game like gave you either option.
Yes.
Once again, I know I'm singing the praises of this, but like, goodness, I think that's so impressive that you can still like just literally hit the Windows key or like Alt Tab or whatever, and the game still like accounts for that. I find that just so cool. Is there more to say? I have a letter from Monika that I think we should read, and a letter from Dan Salvato. If any of us, other than myself, sought out the true ending.
I sought it out on YouTube.
True endings?
Okay.
There's true endings?
So there is, yeah. I'll start with the
I don't
true
know
ending,
which.
I
Did you
guess.
have anything that? Did you seek it out as well? Which?
If it's what I'm thinking it is, when you get that quote, true end, you get that thank you from the developers, right?
Yes, from
okay.
Dan
No,
Salvato.
I was gonna bring it up, but no, go ahead.
Like the credits, right?
Yeah.
I think it's worth reading both. I think they're both like indicative of what the game does, but also they speak to it in a way that I think is compelling and useful. So from Monika, the character, she says, "This is my final goodbye to the Literature Club. I finally understand. The Literature Club is truly a place where no happiness can be found."
Oh, yes.
To the very end, it continued to expose innocent minds to a horrific reality, a reality that our world is not designed to comprehend. I can't let any of my friends undergo that same hellish epiphany. For the time it lasted, I want to thank you for making all of my dreams come true, for being a friend to all of the club members, and most of all, thank you for being a part of my literature club. With everlasting love, Monika.
I distinctly remember, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but when you delete Monika and come back, you start talking to Sayori, and Sayori is essentially corrupted.
She's like the club president, but she's also now been irrevocably altered. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know if y'all got this impression, but again, I remember this from the game theory videos that have been done. The book that Yuri's reading is actually about cults, and it actually gets like very, very dark. And so there's a thought, like in the meta narrative is that maybe this has something to do with a cult, which makes me super excited for whatever Dan Salvato is working on next. Because what if the game was what if it was truly just a cult game? Like, or a follow-up to this game, but based on the meta narrative that's shared throughout. Like, gimme, gimme, gimme.
This game has a fan base that's as rabid as Undertale's fan base, which is to say that, like, number one, the fan base is cringy. No offense if you're listening to this. This is your first episode. But, like, number two,
cringy.
Like, people dig around in this game, and they translate things, and they look into, like, pixel art, and they, like, pine every tweet the developers ever made to try and cobble together some sort of understanding of, like, what's next, or what other meaning they've missed in this text, or whatever. And, like, you're dead right. People are speculating so hard about Salvato's next work. I would love to... Ow! My cat just bit me. Die! Go! Sorry. And I would love to be able to experience that afresh, but I, as of right now, have heard nothing. Doki Doki Literature Plus was kind of a surprise because back in even 2018, 2019, 2020, people were looking through the source code of this game and concluding that his next game would confirmed not have anything to do with this game. We will see if that actually bears fruit because, here we are a couple years later. Doki Doki Plus came out.
Dan Salvato, this is actually the 5th anniversary of Doki Doki. Like, it just happened last week. And so Dan Salvato wrote a note talking about the next 5 years of what's coming. And so, talks about his struggles with ADHD and what that has done, on the challenges of building Team Salvato and the business side of things. But right now, he's working on 3 games. One of them, exactly your point, Flora, is called Magicor Anomala, I think is the name, how it's pronounced. But it's a side project that is entirely different. The second game is a visual novel, and the third game is a secret. So we'll never know what... it'll probably be years until we find out what Dan's working on.
I guess the final thing to do before we start wrapping up is Dan Salvato's note. You have to play all of the romanceable paths on one save file, and you have to stop it when Sayori asks you if you love her or not. If you let it go any further, she ends her life, and therefore you will not be able to use that same save file anymore. So this took a walkthrough for me to get to. But I'd never found it in my original playthrough. It is here, and it says, "To the special player who received this special ending, for years I have been enamored by the ability of visual novels, and games in general, to tell stories in ways not possible using traditional media. Doki Doki Literature Club is my love letter to that. Games are an interactive art. Some let you explore new worlds. Some challenge your mind in brand new ways. Some make you feel like a hero or a friend, even when life is hard on you. Some games are just plain fun, and that's okay too. Everyone likes different kinds of games. People who enjoy dating sims may have a heightened empathy for fictional characters, or they might be experiencing feelings that life has not been kind enough to offer them. If they are enjoying themselves, then that's all that matters. That goes for shooting games, casual games, sandbox games, anything. Preferences are preferences, and our differences are the reason we have a thriving video game industry. My own favorite games have always been ones that challenge the status quo. Even if not a masterpiece, any game that attempts something wildly different may earn a special place in my heart. Anything that further pushes the limitless bounds of interactive media. I extend my gratitude to all those who have taken the time to achieve full completion. I hope you enjoyed playing it as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you for being a part of my literature club. Love, Dan Salvato." So, I think it's a fundamentally beautiful thing to leave in the game for your players in the way that, like, Nintendo games say thank you for playing. This feels exactly that, but like more articulate and more spoken to with my proclivities and my interests as someone who plays games. But yeah, I'm glad I found that. I'm glad I went back and like spent the time finding it. It was worth it. Just a final thought about the music, I guess, before we wrap up, is that I think that the music in this game carries the experience so well, which is to say that in the beginning of the game, the tune, I can't actually make those high octave now sounds, but that's my best approximate with whistling. That little theme that loops your way through the first act of the game is permeating. It's cheesy. It's, to use the same word, saccharine, etc. And the way the game suddenly stops the music. We talked about Sayori's death. The game stops and gives you like a blaring hum, like an Inception, like just bad, scary, put off vibes. The game also has some like generic acoustic riff from a guitar and like other things that the game just does. And I think that when the game decides to stop playing that music, it is time to pay attention. And that shift in how this game uses its music, not even just its sound, which is also interesting. The music in this game, I do think, dominates the tone that you feel because it sells the believability of the story and the, oh, this is just hot anime women, I'm just dating them, that's all I have to worry about, is like who's going to let me down, rather than who's going to suddenly take their own life or whatever. And I think that we would be remiss to miss that part of the conversation because the music shapes so much of what happens here, as much as like the successful character portraits and those close-ups that we see with like intimate scenes with the characters where someone's bow needs further tying, or you're sharing a book with a said Yuri character or whatever. I think the music does as much to allure the player as the art does visually. So that is worth, I think, articulating before we wrap up. I guess the only thing left here then is to go ahead and tell you how to follow up with us on this episode. If you want to share your thoughts or get in contact for any reason, you can find us on Twitter at Left Behind Club. You can find us on Instagram at Left Behind Game Club. You can find us on Discord at leftbehindgame.club/Discord, which is where arguably we're most active. Come talk to us. Come join us. Come give your thoughts on Doki Doki. And if you enjoyed the show...
Are you watching Spy Family? Please come and talk about it.
Anya, yes, we have Bond now. Oh, spoilers. But... Gosh, join us, Spy Family. I cried. I was so happy that it came back. But yeah, if you want to talk Spy Family, if you want to talk Doki Doki, if you want to talk other anime, other games, whatever, come see us in the Discord. Again, that's leftbehindgame.club/Discord. And if you enjoyed the show, do us 2 favors. Send it to a friend and give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Which, I'm going to hand it to you first. Can you tell us where to find you on the internet?
You can find me at Twitch and Twitter.com.tv at MissVitch. That's VVitch. Yeah.
Lovely. Katie, how about you?
I am on Twitter. I am Lesperak, Lesperak. I talk about random things that I like, and I have a good time. Come on, join me. And I'm also pretty active in the Discord. A lot of fun. I've been enjoying the FromSoft channel lately because of a game that we're playing. And yeah, Jacob's enjoying it less, but I'm all in.
Bloodborne, baby.
Bloodborne,
Jacob,
baby.
Tell me,
if you want to join the
Discord. Tell me how much you hate Bloodborne.
Yeah, you can taunt Jacob in the Discord. How is Bloodborne going, Jacob?
Look, I beat 4 bosses, so
that's really good.
That's more than me.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So I played a lot before I went on a trip, and I'm excited because I'm going to get to start playing again this week, and, you know, time's ticking. I've only got 2 weeks. You can find me on the internet at Jacob McCourt, JACOBMCCOURT on all major social media platforms. My rantings on Twitter, and then I make daily video game content on TikTok. Weirdly enough, some video I made about the special edition of Dying Light got like 600,000 views. Wow. So, like... TikTok's very strange. Very strange.
I saw you just passed like 5,000 people on TikTok. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm close to 6,000 now, which is wild and,
wow.
And cool. So, yeah, it's crazy. TikTok, huh? One thing that's timely, if you're listening to this close to when it comes out, I'm restarting video game trivia on October 5th, 12th, and 19th. The episode on the 5th features the boys from the Trophy Room podcast, Joseph Moran and Kyle Stevenson. You can find that, again, October 5th, 12th, 19th in the evening at youtube.com/Jacob McCourt. That's it. That's all I got.
That's a lot. You're a content machine. You can find me on the interwebs at Ludo Narrative FM on Twitter. You can find me on epiloguegaming.com, where I put my thoughts in long form articles. I just published something on the game Metal Hellsinger, which really cool. It just has some kind of weak spots, and I talk about why. And also, by the time this episode releases, I should have an article up about the anime Cyberpunk Edge Runners, my first ever anime article. But I mean, I have the justification. It's in a video game basis, etc. So come check that out if you want. And then if you want to talk directly, the best place is the Left Behind Game Club Discord. I am there all the time, also frequenting the FromSoft channel, but also crying repeatedly about Spy Family and other things. So I'll see you there. I suppose if Mike Ruffalo was here, we would say, first, shout out to Mike Ruffalo, and that, my friends, is one less game left behind. Are we cool if I do the rest of these questions? Because I'm actually really enjoying this gauntlet.
Please.
Okay. Favorite console generation? Which?
Oh, the GameCube. The GameCube era. Pure. That's just. It's my childhood, so it's just pure nostalgia.
Good take.
All of my favorite games. All of them came from GameCube. Animal Crossing, Harvest Moon, Mario Kart Double Dash. I guess that's it. Those are my Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Okay.
Yes.
You know what? I like Paper Mario, but that's an RPG. It's not a Mario game.
Aren't you a Pikmin person too?
Oh, Pikmin, yeah. Yes. That came out on GameCube.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had a GameCube. I played at my friend's house growing up, but never. My first Nintendo console was a Wii that I bought in 2018, so a little late to the party.
Wow.
Yeah. Any video game crushes? I think Dating Sim Fan here is going to have several, but any standout waifus, husbandos, etc.
You know what? The one I get the most flack for all the time is Shane from Stardew Valley.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, though. I get it.
I gotta look him up.
Let me tell you, his whole character...
He's like emo boy.
His whole character arc is that he's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Oh.
And one of your heart events, your one-to-ones where you're growing your relationship, he talks about how he wants to, kind of in theme with today's game, how he wants to throw himself off a cliff and and he says, please take me to the hospital. I don't feel good. I need to get my stomach pumped. And then the date ends with taking him to the hospital. And then he fixes his life and turns around from there.
For some reason, he reminds me of the lead singer of 303, and I don't know why.
Don't trust me, as it were.
Very good, very good.
That was kind of a devastating answer for video game crushes. Do you have any more lighthearted ones?
I like problematic characters.
Nice. Understood. Well, no wonder this game resonates with you.
My recent Otome, I think my favorite person to date in the Otome is vehemently an extreme. It's a mafia. Everyone's in the mafia, but he's likes to kill people for fun. Mafia.
Okay.
He is bad. He is a bad person. To an extreme, but if it's not problematic, I don't know. It's a little character spice.